Hello, my dear friends. Take a slow breath. Let your body sink into stillness. There is nothing you need to do tonight, and nothing you need to remember. This is a quiet walk into the past, told slowly, gently, so your mind can rest while history drifts by. Tonight, imagine waking up in ancient Greece. Not the Greece of statues and stories, but the real one. The everyday world. The ordinary life. A place that looks beautiful from far away, but feels very hard when you are inside it. Imagine you open your eyes in the early morning light of an ancient Greek town. The ground beneath you is hard. The air is already warm. There is no soft bed, no silence, no comfort. Life begins early because daylight controls everything. You are surrounded by stone walls, narrow streets, and the sound of people already moving. There is no privacy here. Homes are small. Families live close together. Smells of smoke, animals, and food fill the air. From the very first moment, your body feels uncomfortable, and there is no way to escape it. Daily life in ancient Greece is physical and demanding. Most people work with their bodies from sunrise to sunset. Farmers walk long distances to fields. Craftsmen stand for hours. Women manage homes without tools or machines. Water must be carried by hand. Food must be prepared slowly. Nothing is easy, and nothing is quick. Hunger is common. Meals are simple, often bread, olives, and thin soup. Meat is rare. Your body feels tired, but rest is limited. There is always more work waiting. Cleanliness is very different from what you know. Baths exist, but they are not daily comforts for everyone. Many people live with dirt, sweat, and illness as part of life. Infections spread easily. Small injuries can become serious. There is no modern medicine. Pain is normal. Life expectancy is short. From the first day, your body begins to feel fragile. Social rules are strict and unforgiving. Your place in society matters more than who you are. If you are born poor, you stay poor. If you are a woman, your life is controlled by others. Women are expected to stay indoors, manage the home, and obey male relatives. Their voices are rarely heard in public life. Freedom is limited, especially for those without status. If you make a mistake, there is little protection. Slavery is everywhere. Many people around you are not free. They work endlessly with no choice. This creates fear and tension in daily life. Even free citizens live under pressure, knowing their position could change. Safety is uncertain. Justice is uneven. Life depends heavily on favor, reputation, and luck. Religion fills every part of life. The gods are believed to watch everything. Illness, bad harvests, accidents, and misfortune are often blamed on divine anger. Fear of the gods creates anxiety rather than comfort. Rituals must be followed carefully. Mistakes feel dangerous. Peace of mind is rare. Even rest is filled with worry about pleasing forces you cannot see. Entertainment exists, but it is not relaxation in the modern sense. Sports, theater, and public events are intense and crowded. They offer distraction, not comfort. Violence and suffering are often part of public life. There is little separation between hardship and leisure. Emotional relief is limited. Sleep itself is uncomfortable. Nights are dark and noisy. Beds are hard. Homes offer little insulation from heat, cold, or sound. You sleep lightly, waking often. Dreams mix with reality. Rest does not fully restore you. The next day begins before your body feels ready. As the day moves forward, The sun grows stronger. Heat presses down. Shade is limited. Water is precious. Your body feels heavy and slow. There is no escape from the environment. Ancient Greece is not gentle to those living inside it. Beauty exists, but it is distant, seen more in stories than in daily life. Imagine trying to survive this for weeks, months, years. Your modern habits offer no help here. There is no comfort system waiting to support you. Life demands constant effort. Strength is required every day. Many people do not make it far into old age. Loss is common. Grief is familiar. As the evening arrives, the day does not soften much. Fires are lit. Food is shared quickly. The body is exhausted, but the mind remains alert. Tomorrow will be the same. There is no weekend, no break, no promise of ease. Life continues because it must. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Not because people were cruel, but because life itself was hard, slow, and demanding. Every moment required endurance. Every comfort had to be earned. Survival was the main goal. Now, as the night grows quiet, allow this world to fade. You do not need to stay there. Let your body relax. Let your breathing slow. You are safe here, in the present. The past can rest. Imagine waking up in ancient Greece, not in a peaceful marble city like pictures show, but in a small stone house with a dirt or hard-packed floor beneath your feet. The air is cool in the early morning, and there is no soft bed to rise from. Only a thin mat or rough surface that your body has grown sore from overnight. Your muscles already feel tired before the day has even begun. Life here does not wait for you to feel ready. The day starts early, guided by the sun, and everyone around you is already moving, working, and preparing for long hours ahead. Daily life in ancient Greece is demanding and unforgiving. Most people live simple lives filled with physical labor. There are no machines to help. Everything is done by hand. Water must be carried from wells or public fountains, often from far away. Food preparation takes time and effort, from grinding grain to baking bread over open fires. Even simple meals require hours of work. The body is always in motion, lifting, walking, bending, and carrying. Rest is not something people plan for. It happens only when the body can no longer continue. Cleanliness, something we take for granted today, is limited and inconsistent. There are no private bathrooms, no running water, and no soap as we know it. Bathing happens occasionally in shared spaces, rivers, or simple basins, and only when time allows. Dirt, sweat, and dust are constant companions. Illness spreads easily, and even small infections can become serious. Without modern medicine, the body must rely on rest and luck to heal, but rest is rarely available. The sounds of daily life surround you from morning until night. Voices calling out in markets, animals moving through streets, tools striking stone or wood, and the constant hum of human activity fill the air. Privacy is rare. Homes are close together, and lives are lived openly. There is little space to retreat inward or be alone. The mind has no quiet escape, and this constant stimulation slowly wears down mental energy. Food, while simple, is not always plentiful. Meals often consist of bread, olives, small amounts of cheese, and watered wine. Meat is rare for most people and usually reserved for festivals or special occasions. Hunger is common, not extreme starvation, but a steady, dull hunger that never fully disappears. This lack of nutrition weakens the body over time, making people more vulnerable to sickness and exhaustion. Social roles are strict and unavoidable. From the moment you wake, expectations shape your actions. Men, women, children, slaves, and citizens all have clearly defined places in society, and stepping outside those roles is dangerous. There is little freedom to choose how to live your day. Life follows tradition, habit, and survival, rather than personal desire. As you imagine moving through this day, notice how quickly the body becomes tired and the mind overwhelmed. This is only the beginning. Even before danger, war, or politics enter the picture, daily life itself is enough to exhaust you. This is one of the first reasons why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. The struggle begins quietly, with the weight of ordinary life pressing down from the very first morning. As the night grows quiet, allow this image to soften and fade. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow naturally. In the next part, we will gently move deeper into the realities of health, illness, and survival in ancient Greece. Always calmly, always slowly. Imagine you wake up in ancient Greece feeling hungry, not the light kind of hunger that passes after breakfast, but the deep, familiar hunger that many people carried with them every single day. Food in ancient Greece was simple, limited, and often uncertain. Most people did not wake up to fresh bread, fruit, and warm meals. For many, the day began with nothing at all. If food was available, it was usually a small piece of bread made from barley, rough and heavy, sometimes stale. It filled the stomach but brought little comfort. This was not a choice or a diet. It was survival. Meat was rare for ordinary people. It was not eaten daily or even weekly. Meat was usually connected to religious festivals or sacrifices, and even then, only small portions reached common families. Most meals were built around bread, olives, simple vegetables, and watered-down wine. Fish was available near the coast, but not everyone lived close enough to access it easily. Hunger shaped daily life. People worked while hungry, walked while hungry, and slept while hungry. The body grew used to it, but it never truly accepted it. Cooking was slow and basic. There were no modern kitchens, no ovens in most homes, and no guarantee of fuel. Fires had to be carefully maintained, and food was often cooked in simple pots over open flames. Meals took time and effort, and when food was scarce, people learned to stretch it. A single meal might be shared among many, each person taking small portions, eating slowly, hoping the feeling of fullness might last a little longer. Water was another quiet challenge. Clean drinking water was not always easy to find. Wells and public fountains existed, but they were crowded and sometimes far away. Carrying water was heavy work, often done daily, sometimes multiple times a day. Poor water could lead to illness, weakness, and fatigue. There was no clear understanding of germs, only experience passed down through observation and habit. People avoided water that smelled wrong or tasted strange, but mistakes were common. Food shortages were always a threat. Droughts, poor harvests, and war could quickly turn simple hunger into real danger. When crops failed, there was no quick solution. No stored supplies large enough to protect everyone. Hunger became sharper, meals smaller, and fear quieter but heavier. Children felt it first. The elderly suffered the most. Many did not survive these periods, not because of violence, but because their bodies slowly gave up. As you imagine trying to live this way, notice how exhausting it feels. Hunger touches every part of life. It weakens the body, slows the mind, and makes simple tasks harder. This is one of the biggest reasons you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Life was not built around comfort or abundance, it was built around endurance. As the night grows quiet, allow this image to soften. You do not need to hold on to it. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow. In the next part, we will move gently into daily work and labor, and how ordinary people used their bodies until there was almost nothing left to give. For now, remain still. Let the quiet deepen. Let rest continue in its own time. In ancient Greece, food was never guaranteed, and for most people, hunger was not an emergency but a constant background feeling. Imagine waking up in a small stone home, the air still cool from the night, your stomach already empty. Breakfast was not a proper meal. For many, it was nothing at all, or just a small piece of bread dipped in water or thin wine. There was no variety, no sweetness, and no comfort in food. Meals were simple, repetitive, and focused only on survival. Bread made from coarse grain formed the center of daily eating, often hard, dry, and difficult to chew. Vegetables were seasonal and limited, and meat was rare, saved for special days or religious offerings. The body learned to function on very little, but this constant lack of nourishment slowly weakened strength and endurance. Food preparation itself was slow and tiring. Grain had to be ground by hand, a task that took hours and strained the arms and back. Cooking was done over open fires, filling small homes with smoke that irritated the eyes and lungs. There was no refrigeration, so food spoiled quickly, forcing people to eat what they had before it went bad. Clean water was not always available, and drinking from shared sources carried risk of illness. The body was always slightly under stress, fighting hunger, thirst, and infection at the same time. Even strong adults often felt weak, dizzy, or tired, especially during long work days under the sun. Eating was not about pleasure for most people. It was a routine, quiet act, often done quickly before returning to work. There were no snacks, no late-night meals, and no extra comfort when the body felt exhausted. Children grew up learning to ignore hunger, and adults accepted it as part of life. This constant state of mild starvation affected mood, patience, and energy. Tempers were short, fatigue was normal, and rest rarely felt enough. The body never fully recovered because it was never fully fed. As you imagine living this way, notice how heavy and slow everything feels. Even simple movement would require effort. Even thinking clearly would take energy. This is another reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Life demanded strength, but gave very little back in return. The body was expected to endure heat, labor, and hunger without complaint, day after day, year after year. As the night grows quiet now, let this image slowly fade. You do not need to hold on to it. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing soften. Allow rest to continue gently, in its own calm time. Imagine the day moving slowly forward in ancient Greece, as the sun climbs higher and the body begins to feel the weight of hunger. Food in this world is simple, repetitive, and often limited. There are no large meals filled with variety. There is no easy access to meat, sugar, or rich flavors. Most people eat bread made from barley or wheat, olives, a little cheese, and sometimes vegetables. Meals are small and meant to last. Hunger is not sudden or dramatic. It is quiet and constant, living gently in the background of daily life. The body learns to work while slightly hungry, to think while not fully satisfied, and to rest without feeling full. Water is precious and not always clean. Wine is often mixed with water even during the day, not for pleasure but for safety. Drinking pure water can be risky. This means the body lives in a constant state of balance, never fully refreshed. Thirst comes easily, especially in the heat. The sun is strong and shade is limited. Walking, working, or even standing for long periods slowly drains energy. The body becomes tired early, not because the work is extreme, but because recovery is slow. Cooking takes time and effort. Fire must be maintained. Ingredients are simple. There are no quick meals. Food preparation itself is labor. For many, especially women and lower-class families, much of the day revolves around making sure there is something to eat at all. There is little joy in food. It is fuel, not comfort. Eating is quiet and practical. The body accepts this routine, but it never forgets the lack of abundance. Because nutrition is limited, the body grows lean but weak. Muscles work, but they do not grow strong easily. Illness comes quietly and stays longer. Small wounds heal slowly. Fatigue becomes familiar. Rest does not fully restore energy because the body does not receive everything it needs. Sleep comes, but it is shallow. Hunger often wakes people before sunrise, pushing them back into movement before they feel ready. As you imagine yourself living this way, notice how quickly the body feels worn down. Not broken, not injured, just slowly drained. This is another reason you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Life is not cruel in a loud way. It is demanding in a quiet way. It asks the body to keep going without comfort, without fullness, and without relief. As the day fades and evening approaches, allow this image to soften. Let the hunger, the heat, and the tired body drift away. Let your own body remain still. Let your breathing slow. The night is here, and rest can finally begin. In ancient Greece, daily life placed a heavy weight on the human body, far heavier than most modern people could imagine. From sunrise to sunset, the day was filled with physical effort, whether a person was farming the land, carrying water, shaping stone, weaving cloth, or rowing a boat. There were no machines to reduce effort and no clear separation between work and survival. If the work stopped, life quickly became harder. Muscles were always in use, joints rarely rested, and small injuries were ignored because there was simply no time to slow down. The body learned to keep moving even when tired, and this constant strain meant that exhaustion was not an occasional feeling, but a permanent state. Rest, when it came, was brief and shallow. Sleep happened on hard surfaces, often shared with others, and was interrupted by noise, discomfort, or the need to wake early again. There was no concept of recovering the body fully before the next day began. Pain was normal. Sore muscles were expected. Illness was endured quietly until it became impossible to ignore. Medical care was limited and often based on tradition rather than real healing, which meant that many problems simply lingered. A modern body, used to comfort and recovery, would struggle quickly under this constant pressure. Even free citizens who were considered privileged did not live easy lives. Managing land, attending civic duties, training for defense, and participating in public life all demanded energy and attention. There was little space for rest without guilt, because idleness was often viewed as weakness. For enslaved people, the burden was far heavier. Their work was relentless, their rest minimal, and their bodies treated as tools rather than lives. Survival depended on enduring fatigue without complaint. As the day ended, the body rarely felt relief. Instead of relaxation, there was only stillness before effort began again. The mind learned to accept tiredness as normal, just as it accepted hunger, heat, and discomfort. Over time, this wore people down quietly. Aging came early. Strength faded sooner than expected. The body carried years of labor in every movement. As you imagine living inside this body, feel how heavy it becomes, not suddenly but slowly, hour by hour, day by day. This is another reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Not because of one dramatic danger, but because the body was never truly allowed to rest. As the night grows quiet again, allow this image to soften and fade. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow. Allow rest to continue gently, without effort. As you continue to imagine yourself waking up in ancient Greece, one of the heaviest things you begin to feel is not the heat, not the hunger, and not even the hard labor, but the constant pressure of society watching you. Life in ancient Greece was deeply public. Very little happened in private. Your behavior, your words, your habits, and even your silence were noticed, judged, and remembered. From the moment you stepped outside your home, you were part of a social world that expected you to act in very specific ways. There was comfort in belonging, but there was also weight in never being fully free. Every person in ancient Greece had a role that was decided long before they were ready to choose for themselves. Men were expected to be strong, disciplined, and loyal to their city. Women were expected to be quiet, modest, and focused on home and family. Children were shaped early, taught obedience and endurance rather than comfort or expression. If you failed to meet these expectations, you were not corrected gently. You were criticized, excluded, or quietly looked down upon. This constant pressure shaped how people moved, spoke, and even thought. Imagine walking through the streets of an ancient Greek city. You feel eyes on you, not with hostility, but with awareness. People notice how you stand, how you dress, and how you carry yourself. Reputation mattered deeply. A single mistake could follow you for years. There were no second chances given easily, and forgiveness was not guaranteed. Because of this, people learned to control themselves tightly. Emotions were hidden. Complaints were swallowed. Fatigue was ignored. This emotional restraint made daily life exhausting in a quiet way. Honor was one of the most important values in ancient Greece, but honor came with fear. Fear of shame. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of being remembered for the wrong reason. People worked hard not only to survive, but to maintain dignity in the eyes of others. This meant enduring pain silently, accepting unfairness, and continuing forward even when the body or mind felt overwhelmed. Rest was rarely prioritized. Endurance was admired more than well-being. Social gatherings, which might seem pleasant from the outside, also carried pressure. Conversations were careful. Words were chosen with purpose. Speaking too much or too little could both be criticized. Even laughter had its place and time. There was little room to relax completely because being observed was part of life. This constant awareness created a background tension that never fully faded. For those who were not citizens, such as slaves or foreigners, this pressure was even heavier. They lived under rules they did not help create and expectations they could never fully meet. Their voices mattered less. Their discomfort was often ignored. Survival depended on obedience rather than strength or intelligence. Freedom was limited not just physically but mentally, as hope itself had to be carefully controlled. As you imagine carrying this weight through a single day, notice how tired you feel without having done anything dramatic. This is another reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Life required constant awareness, constant restraint, and constant effort to remain acceptable in the eyes of others. There was little space to simply be yourself. There was little permission to rest emotionally. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image of social pressure to slowly fade. You do not need to hold on to it. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breathing slow. Allow your body to rest without being watched, without being judged, without expectation. For now, remain still. Let the quiet deepen. Let rest continue gently in its own time. As the long day in ancient Greece finally came to an end, rest did not arrive in the way we imagine it today. Sleep was not a comfortable escape from the day, but simply another part of survival. Homes were small, often crowded, and built with stone or mud that held heat during the day and released cold at night. There were no soft beds waiting, no quiet rooms set aside for rest. Most people slept on simple mats, thin blankets, or animal skins laid directly on the floor. The body did not sink into comfort. It stayed aware of the hard surface beneath it, making deep rest difficult even when exhaustion was heavy. The night itself was not peaceful. Sounds traveled easily through narrow streets and open courtyards. Animals moved nearby. Neighbors talked late. Fires crackled. The mind stayed alert, listening for anything unusual. Darkness did not mean safety. It meant uncertainty. Without strong locks or lighting, people slept lightly, waking often, shifting positions, checking surroundings. True uninterrupted sleep was rare, especially for the poor, who lived closest to noise, animals, and the open street. Daily labor made the body tired, but that tiredness did not always lead to rest. Muscles ached from farming, carrying water, grinding grain, or standing for long hours in workshops. Feet were sore from walking on uneven stone roads. Hands were rough and cracked. When the body finally lay down, pain often replaced fatigue. Joints stiffened. Old injuries reminded people of themselves. Sleep came in short stretches, broken by discomfort and cold. Children slept close to parents, not for comfort, but for warmth and safety. Families shared space because they had no choice. Privacy did not exist. If one person woke, others often followed. Nighttime rest belonged to the household, not the individual. This constant closeness made quiet difficult and rest shallow. Illness made sleep even harder. Without real medicine, people often lay awake through fevers, coughing, or pain, hoping the night would pass quickly. There were no doctors on call, no relief waiting in the morning. Sleep did not heal easily because the conditions around it were never supportive. Even the wealthy, who lived in larger homes, did not escape discomfort. Stone floors, simple furniture, and open-air spaces meant cold nights and restless sleep. Luxury did not equal comfort. It only meant more space to feel the same physical strain. As you imagine lying down at the end of a long, ancient Greek day, notice how the body never fully relaxes. The mind does not shut off. Rest is light, broken, and uncertain. This is another reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Even sleep, the one place we expect peace, offered little relief. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to fade gently. You are safe. You are warm. You do not need to listen for danger. Let your body rest deeply, something ancient Greeks rarely experienced. Let the story drift away as sleep comes easily to you. By the time the day moved into its later hours in ancient Greece, the body would already feel worn down in ways that modern life rarely creates. Survival was not something dramatic or heroic. It was constant, quiet effort. Every task demanded physical energy. Water had to be carried by hand, food prepared slowly, and shelter maintained daily. There were no shortcuts, no machines to reduce effort, and no expectation that the body should feel comfortable. Fatigue was normal, not something to complain about, and rest was limited by the demands of the household and the rhythms of daylight. Even standing still for a moment felt like relief, because the body was almost always in motion. Hunger was another steady presence. Meals were simple and repetitive, often based on grains, olives, and small amounts of vegetables. Meat was rare, saved for special occasions or religious festivals. Portions were modest, not designed to fully satisfy, but to keep the body moving. The stomach learned to accept emptiness as normal. This constant mild hunger shaped how people thought and felt. Energy was conserved. Movements were deliberate. Life slowed not by choice, but by necessity. For someone used to abundance, this alone would feel exhausting within a single day. Cleanliness, something taken for granted today, required effort and compromise. Bathing was infrequent and depended on access to water and public facilities. Clothes were worn repeatedly, repaired rather than replaced, and carried the marks of daily labor. Heat, dust, and sweat were unavoidable. The body existed close to the natural world, exposed to weather, insects, and changing seasons. Comfort was not expected. Endurance was. Social pressure added another layer of quiet stress. Ancient Greek society was structured and judgmental, especially toward outsiders. Behavior, speech, posture, and appearance all carried meaning. A wrong word or unfamiliar habit could draw attention. Attention was rarely kind. Social roles were strict, and stepping outside them was risky. This constant awareness of how one appeared to others created mental fatigue, especially for someone unfamiliar with the rules. The mind stayed alert not for danger but for mistakes. As evening approached, there was little sense of winding down in the modern sense. Darkness brought limited light, often from oil lamps that flickered and smoked. Activities slowed because visibility faded, not because the body felt rested. Sleep came early, but it was light and broken. Beds were simple, often little more than straw or fabric stretched over wood. Sounds from the street, animals, and nearby homes carried easily through thin walls. Privacy was rare. Silence was uncommon. Rest was shallow. Emotionally, the day left little space for reflection or relaxation. Survival took priority over comfort, expression, or rest. There was no separation between work and life. Everything blended together into one long effort to endure. By the end of a single day, the body would ache, the mind would feel dull, and energy would feel spent. Not because of one dramatic hardship, but because of many small demands layered together without pause. As you imagine living through this day, notice how quietly overwhelming it feels. Nothing extreme happens, yet everything is difficult. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece, not because of war or danger, but because daily life itself required a level of endurance that modern life rarely asks for. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to soften and drift away. You do not need to carry it further. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing stay slow and gentle. Allow rest to continue naturally, far from the weight of the ancient world. As life continued in ancient Greece, one of the hardest realities slowly revealed itself with time. Growing old did not bring comfort, safety, or rest. For most people, age was not something to look forward to. The body worked hard from childhood, and by early adulthood, wear and tear had already begun. Farming, walking long distances, carrying water, grinding grain, and constant physical labor shaped the body early. By what we would now consider middle age, many were already tired, stiff, and weak. Pain was normal. Fatigue was expected. There were no easy ways to slow down or recover. Illness was another quiet danger that followed daily life. Without modern medicine, even small sicknesses could become serious. Infections, fevers, and injuries were common, and treatment was limited to herbs, rest, and prayer. Doctors existed, but they were rare and expensive. Many people relied on home remedies or the advice of elders. When illness came, there was often little to do but wait and hope. Recovery was uncertain, and fear was quiet but constant. Sleep, which should have been a time of healing, often failed to fully restore the body. Nights were uncomfortable. Bedding was simple. Homes were cold in winter and hot in summer. The body rested, but never deeply enough to fully repair itself. Over time, exhaustion settled into the bones. Life became slower, not because people chose to slow down, but because their bodies no longer allowed them to move quickly. Old age did not mean retirement. There was no concept of stopping work simply because one was tired. If you could move, you worked. If you could not, you relied on family, if they existed and were willing. Those without family support often struggled quietly. There were no public systems to care for the elderly. Survival depended on community and luck. Death, when it came, was not dramatic. It arrived quietly, often at home, surrounded by routine rather than ceremony. Life ended the same way it was lived, simply and without much notice. Funerals were brief. Mourning was short, because life had to continue. Fields still needed tending, food still needed preparing. The world did not pause. As you imagine this final stage of life in ancient Greece, notice how calm yet heavy it feels. There is no cruelty in it, only simplicity and acceptance. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece, not because of one single hardship, but because life itself required constant strength, endurance, and acceptance of discomfort. As the night grows quiet now, allow these thoughts to fade. You do not need to hold them. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing stay slow and gentle. Allow rest to continue naturally, far away from the weight of the ancient world. As the day in ancient Greece slowly moved toward its end, the reality of daily life became even heavier. This was not a world designed for comfort. There were no soft beds waiting at night, no quiet rooms meant only for rest, and no privacy in the way we understand it today. Most people slept on hard surfaces, thin mats, or simple wooden frames. The body never fully relaxed, even during sleep. Nights were often interrupted by noise, insects, cold air, or the presence of others nearby. True rest was rare, and waking up tired was normal. This alone would make surviving even one full day feel exhausting. Hygiene was basic and inconsistent. Clean water was not always easy to access, and bathing was not a daily habit for most people. Sweat, dust, and the smell of work stayed on the body. Clothing was worn again and again, washed infrequently, and often rough against the skin. Illness spread easily, and small infections could become serious problems. There was little understanding of germs or prevention. If you became sick, there was no guarantee of care. Healing depended on luck, simple remedies, or religious hope. Work did not end when the sun lowered. For many, especially slaves and the poor, labor continued until darkness made it impossible to see. Muscles ached constantly. Hands were rough and damaged. Backs bent early under years of strain. Rest was not earned. It was limited. Even free citizens were expected to contribute physically, mentally, or socially to their households and cities. Laziness was not tolerated, and weakness was often judged harshly. The emotional pressure of ancient Greek life was also relentless. Society expected strength, endurance, and obedience to tradition. Showing fear, pain, or doubt was often seen as shameful, especially for men. For women, expectations were even narrower, focused on silence, duty, and obedience. There was little space for personal expression or emotional relief. Feelings were kept inside, adding to mental fatigue that never fully faded. As you imagine living through this day, notice how little softness exists. There is no pause designed just for comfort. Life moves forward whether the body is ready or not. This is another reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. The challenge is not only the heat, the work, or the hunger, but the constant lack of care for the individual body and mind. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to fade slowly. You do not need to carry it. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing stay slow and gentle. Allow rest to continue calmly, far away from the hard ground and long days of the ancient world. As the long day in ancient Greece slowly comes to an end, the sun begins to sink behind stone hills and white buildings, and the air cools just enough to soften the heat that has pressed against the body since morning. At first, this moment feels like relief. Muscles that have been tense all day finally loosen slightly. The light becomes gentler. Shadows grow longer. But rest, the kind of rest we imagine today, does not arrive easily. Evening in ancient Greece is not a time of comfort and quiet recovery. It is simply a shift from one kind of effort to another. Homes are simple, often crowded, and built more for protection than comfort. Floors are hard, bedding is thin, privacy is rare. Families gather in shared spaces, and even in these moments, the body does not fully relax. There is cooking to finish, tools to put away, animals to settle, and plans to quietly discuss for the next day. Life moves slowly, but it never truly stops. For someone used to modern comfort, this constant background effort would feel exhausting. especially after a day already filled with labor, heat, and noise. Food in the evening is simple and repetitive. Bread, olives, a little wine, maybe vegetables if they are available. Meals are not designed to restore energy fully. They are designed to keep people going. Hunger is often eased, not removed. The body goes to rest still needing more than it receives. This quiet lack of nourishment settles into the bones over time, making every day feel heavier than the last. As darkness deepens, there is no bright light to push back the night. Oil lamps flicker softly, casting moving shadows on walls. The mind does not scroll or distract itself. Instead, it turns inward. Thoughts wander freely. Worries about work, family, health, and survival rise slowly. Sleep does not arrive quickly. It drifts in and out. People wake often during the night, responding to sounds, animals, or discomfort. This broken sleep is normal, but for someone used to deep, uninterrupted rest, it would feel draining. The body never fully recovers overnight. Muscles remain sore. Small injuries linger. Illness is common and often untreated. Morning will arrive again, bringing the same demands. There is no concept of taking a day off to recover. Life does not pause for fatigue. This constant cycle of effort and incomplete rest is one of the deepest reasons why modern people would struggle to last even a single day in ancient Greece. As you imagine lying there in the dim light, listening to quiet movement around you, feeling the hardness beneath your body and the weight of another day ahead, notice how tired it feels without being dramatic. This is not fear or excitement. It is steady exhaustion, the kind that builds slowly and never fully leaves. As the night grows quiet now, allow this ancient evening to fade gently from your mind. You do not need to stay there. Let your body rest where it is. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow the comfort of distance from that world to soften everything. In ancient Greece, one of the hardest things for a modern person to understand would be how rarely the body was allowed to fully rest. Life moved slowly. Yes, but it was never easy. From the moment the sun began to rise, the day demanded physical effort. Most people woke early not by choice but because daylight was precious and darkness brought danger. There were no soft beds to sink into, no quiet alarms, and no gentle mornings. The body rose from hard surfaces, often stiff and sore, already carrying the weight of yesterday's work. Even before food was eaten, movement was required. Walking long distances, carrying water, grinding grain, cleaning spaces, and preparing for the day, all happened before the body felt awake. Rest during the day was rare and short. There were no chairs designed for comfort, no sofas, and no private spaces to truly relax. People sat on stone, on wood, or directly on the ground. The body learned to accept discomfort as normal. Muscles stayed tense not because of fear, but because life required constant readiness. Even those who were not farmers or laborers still lived in a world where comfort was not valued. Strength and endurance mattered more than ease. Over time, this constant low-level strain wore the body down quietly. Sleep at night did not repair this exhaustion fully. Nights in ancient Greece were not silent or safe. Homes were open to the outside world with thin walls and shared spaces. Sounds traveled easily. Animals moved nearby. People woke often, sometimes from cold, sometimes from noise, sometimes simply because the body was never fully relaxed. Bedding was simple, often little more than woven mats or straw. The ground beneath remained firm and unyielding. The body rested, but it did not recover deeply. Illness and injury were common, and recovery was slow. Medical knowledge existed, but it was limited and mixed with belief. Pain was endured rather than treated. Small injuries lingered. Fatigue became part of daily life. People did not speak of being tired. They simply continued. This constant physical demand meant that many bodies aged early. Strength faded sooner than expected. Endurance remained, but comfort never arrived. As you imagine living this way, notice how quietly overwhelming it feels. There is no single moment where life becomes unbearable. Instead, it is the accumulation of effort, the absence of relief, and the lack of true rest that makes the day so hard to survive. This is one of the deepest reasons why you wouldn't last a day in ancient Greece. Not because of drama or danger, but because your body would never fully be allowed to relax. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to soften and fade. You do not need to carry it forward. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow rest to continue gently, in its own time. In ancient Greece, one of the hardest things to understand for a modern person would be that life never truly slowed down, not even for a moment. There was no clear separation between work, survival, and rest. From the moment the sun rose until darkness fully settled, the body was expected to stay active, alert, and useful. Even those who were not farmers or laborers still lived inside a rhythm that demanded constant attention. Water had to be carried, food had to be prepared from scratch, clothing had to be repaired by hand, and homes required daily care just to remain livable. This constant demand on the body created a quiet exhaustion that people accepted as normal, but which would feel overwhelming to someone from the modern world. The physical environment added to this strain. Ancient Greek cities and villages were built from stone and earth, materials that held heat during the day and released it slowly at night. Summers were long and dry, with the sun pressing down relentlessly. Shade was limited, and cooling comforts did not exist. Sweat, thirst, and fatigue were constant companions. Even walking through the streets required effort, as paths were uneven, dusty, and often crowded. There were no smooth roads or comfortable shoes designed for ease. Every step reminded the body that survival required effort. Daily meals did little to restore energy. Food was simple, repetitive, and often scarce. Bread made from coarse grains, olives, thin wine mixed with water, and occasional vegetables formed the base of most diets. Meat was rare for ordinary people and usually reserved for festivals or special rituals. Hunger was not dramatic starvation, but a dull, constant presence that never fully disappeared. This lack of nourishment weakened the body slowly, making recovery from illness or injury difficult. For a modern person used to regular meals and variety, this constant low energy would feel draining almost immediately. Sleep, which should have offered relief, rarely did. Homes were small and crowded, often shared by extended families. Privacy was almost non-existent. Sleeping surfaces were hard, made of straw mats or simple bedding laid directly on the floor. Nighttime noise from animals, neighbors, or street activity was common. Without artificial lighting, evenings ended early, but nights were not always peaceful. The body rested, but never deeply. Fatigue carried over from one day to the next. becoming a permanent condition rather than a temporary state. Social pressure added another invisible weight. In ancient Greece, one's role in society was tightly defined. Men were expected to contribute physically, politically, or militarily. Women were expected to manage the household, raise children, and remain largely unseen in public life. Failing to meet these expectations brought shame, not sympathy. There was little room for individuality or personal comfort. Life was about duty, not fulfillment. For a modern person accustomed to choice and personal space, this constant judgment would feel suffocating. Illness and injury were especially frightening. Medical knowledge was limited and treatment relied heavily on observation, tradition, and belief rather than effective medicine. A simple infection, a cut, or a fever could become life-threatening. There was no reliable pain relief, no antibiotics, and no guarantee of recovery. The body was fragile, and everyone knew it. This awareness created a constant, quiet anxiety that shaped daily behavior. People moved carefully, but accidents still happened, and when they did, the consequences were often severe. As you imagine living inside this world, notice how relentless it feels. There is no pause button, no easy comfort, no moment where the body is fully supported. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece, not because of one dramatic danger, but because of the endless combination of physical strain, hunger, social pressure, and exhaustion that shaped every ordinary moment of life. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to soften and fade. You do not need to carry it further. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow rest to continue gently, far away from the hard stone streets of the ancient world. By this point in ancient Greek life, it becomes clear that the human body was never meant to handle such constant pressure without relief. After days of walking on rough stone paths, eating limited food, breathing smoke-filled air, and sleeping on hard surfaces, the body slowly began to fail. Muscles stayed sore because rest was never complete. Joints stiffened early, even in young people. Small cuts and infections lingered longer than they should, turning simple injuries into serious problems. There were no quick treatments, no clean bandages, and no clear understanding of how the body healed itself. Pain was not something to avoid. It was something to live with, quietly and constantly. Fatigue in ancient Greece was not the kind that disappeared after sleep. It settled deep inside the body, layering itself day after day. People woke already tired, their bodies heavy before the day even began. Work still had to be done. Water still had to be carried. Food still had to be prepared. There were no rest days in the modern sense, no weekends, no reliable breaks. Even festivals required effort, travel, and physical presence. The body was always being used, rarely restored. Over time, this created a slow breakdown that no one had words for, but everyone felt. Illness was common and often mysterious. A fever could arrive suddenly and stay for days. Weakness could appear without warning. Digestive problems were frequent because food was simple, rough, and sometimes spoiled. Clean drinking water was not guaranteed, especially in crowded city-states. When sickness came, people relied on basic remedies, prayers, or waiting. Many recovered slowly, many did not. There was no expectation that life would be long. Surviving into older age was unusual, and often meant carrying the marks of a lifetime of hardship. Even the strongest minds could not fully escape the physical strain. When the body was exhausted, the mind followed. Thinking became slower. Focus faded more easily. Emotions flattened, not because people lacked feeling, but because there was no energy left to express them. Joy was brief. Relief was temporary. Most of life existed in a quiet state of endurance, where the goal was simply to get through the day without falling behind or falling ill. As you imagine yourself standing in ancient Greece now, notice how little comfort surrounds you. The sun is harsh. The ground is unforgiving. The air is dry or heavy. There is no easy escape from physical strain. No modern tools to soften the experience. No safety nets waiting if your body gives out. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece, not because of dramatic danger, but because the slow, steady weight of daily life would wear you down far faster than you expect. As the night grows quieter now, let this image slowly fade. You do not need to carry the exhaustion of the past. Let your body rest where it is. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow yourself the comfort that ancient lives never had. As the long day in ancient Greece slowly comes to an end, you might expect the night to bring comfort and rest. But this is where another quiet struggle begins. Darkness does not mean peace. Homes are simple, often crowded, and filled with the smells of smoke, oil, and damp stone. There is little privacy, and personal space is almost unknown. If you are part of a household, you sleep where there is room, sometimes on the floor, sometimes on a thin mat, sometimes near animals or storage jars. The body is tired, but comfort is limited. There are no soft beds, no controlled warmth, and no silence. Night sounds travel easily through stone walls and open courtyards, reminding you that the world around you never fully rests. Sleep itself is light and broken. People in ancient Greece do not sleep in one long, deep stretch the way many expect today. Rest comes in parts. You fall asleep for a while, wake up naturally, then rest again. The mind stays aware of the surroundings, listening for footsteps, voices, or changes in the air. Oil lamps burn low, casting weak light and long shadows. Smoke lingers, making breathing heavy. Even while lying still, the body never fully relaxes. Muscles remain slightly tense, trained by daily labor and constant alertness. The night air cools quickly, especially in stone houses that hold cold after sunset. Without thick blankets or steady heat, the body struggles to stay warm. You curl inward, pulling whatever cloth you have closer. Sleep becomes more about endurance than comfort. Dreams, if they come, are short and unclear. Hunger may return quietly, reminding you that meals were simple and never guaranteed. Thirst follows, but water is limited at night. The body learns to ignore small discomforts because there is no choice. Emotionally, night can feel heavier than day. During daylight, tasks distract the mind. At night, thoughts wander freely. Worries about health, work, family, and survival surface quietly. Life in ancient Greece is uncertain for most people, and night gives those thoughts space to appear. There is no concept of relaxing the mind before sleep, no rituals for calm, no separation between stress and rest. Sleep arrives when exhaustion finally overpowers thought. As you imagine lying there in the dark, notice how different this rest feels from modern expectations. Sleep is not a reward at the end of the day. It is another challenge to move through. This is one more reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Even rest is hard. Even the night asks something from you. The body recovers slowly, never fully, always preparing to rise again with the sun and repeat the same demanding cycle. As the night grows quiet now, allow this ancient evening to fade gently away. You do not need to stay there. Let your own body remain safe, still, and supported. Let your breathing slow. Let rest come easily, without effort, without discomfort, without fear. As the long day in ancient Greece slowly came to an end, the world did not suddenly become calm or comfortable. Evening did not mean rest in the way we understand it today. It simply meant that the heat softened slightly, shadows grew longer, and work changed shape instead of stopping. Imagine yourself walking through a narrow stone street as the sun lowers. The air is still warm. The ground beneath your feet is hard and uneven. Your body is already tired, not from excitement, but from constant movement, standing, and effort that began before sunrise. There is no clear separation between work time and rest time. Life flows on without pause. Homes in ancient Greece offer little relief. Most are simple, crowded, and built more for protection than comfort. Inside, the air feels heavy, especially in warmer months. Light is low. Sounds travel easily through thin walls. Privacy is rare. Families share space closely. And personal quiet is difficult to find. If you are hoping for peace, you quickly realize that rest here is shallow and easily broken. The body lies down, but the mind remains aware of every sound, every movement, every voice nearby. Meals in the evening are simple and practical. Food is not meant to comfort or relax you. It is meant to keep you going. Bread, olives, perhaps some vegetables, and watered wine are shared slowly. Conversation is calm, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes quiet. There is no rush, but there is also no softness. Eating does not restore energy fully. It simply fills the space between hunger and tomorrow's work. The body accepts it without expectation. As darkness settles, there is no bright light to push the night away. Oil lamps offer a soft glow, barely enough to see clearly. Shadows move along the walls. The night feels close, not open. Going outside after dark is limited and cautious. Streets are uneven and dim. The night belongs to stillness, not safety. Because of this, most people remain indoors, sitting quietly or lying down earlier than they would choose. Not because they are rested, but because there is nothing else to do. Sleep in ancient Greece is not deep or long. Mats, wooden frames, or simple bedding offer little support. The body feels every hard surface. Positions are changed often. Heat, insects, and noise interrupt rest. Dreams are light and fragmented. Waking during the night is normal and accepted. There is no frustration about it because this is how life has always been. Rest is something taken in pieces, never fully owned. As you imagine yourself lying there, listening to distant sounds and feeling the weight of the day in your muscles, it becomes clear why lasting even one full day would be difficult. Ancient Greek life demanded constant endurance. There was no recovery period, no comfort waiting at the end. The body was expected to rise again before dawn, ready to repeat the same effort without complaint. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to soften and drift away. You do not need to stay in that place. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow rest to come gently, without effort, far away from stone floors and long days under the sun. In ancient Greece, one of the most exhausting parts of daily life was not the hard work, the heat, or the lack of comfort, but the constant feeling of being watched, judged, and measured against expectations that never truly rested. Society was built around ideas of honor, duty, and reputation, and every action, even the smallest one, carried weight. People were expected to behave in very specific ways depending on their gender, age, class, and city. Stepping outside those boundaries did not bring freedom or individuality. It brought shame, gossip, and quiet punishment. For someone suddenly waking up in this world, the pressure would feel heavy almost immediately. From the moment the day began, behavior mattered. How you spoke, how you walked, how you looked at others, and even how much you talked could affect how you were treated. Men were expected to show strength, control, and confidence, even when they felt fear or doubt. Showing weakness was not seen as honest. It was seen as failure. Women lived under even stricter rules, with their behavior closely monitored by family and society. Silence, modesty, and obedience were valued far more than comfort or happiness. Living under these expectations required constant self-control, which slowly drained energy from both the body and the mind. Reputation followed people everywhere. A single mistake could stay with you for years. Stories traveled quickly in close communities, and there was no way to escape your past. There were no fresh starts in another town without suspicion. Who your parents were, how they lived, and what others said about you shaped your entire place in society. This made life feel narrow and fixed. You were born into a role, and most people never left it. For a modern mind used to choice and movement, this lack of flexibility would feel suffocating. Even rest was affected by this constant judgment. Relaxing too much could be seen as laziness. Enjoying comfort could be seen as weakness. Life was meant to be endured with discipline. Pleasure was allowed, but only in controlled ways, often tied to ritual, status, or public approval. Private happiness was less important than public image. This made true peace difficult to find. The mind stayed alert, not just to danger, but to opinion, always adjusting behavior to avoid criticism. As night arrived in ancient Greece, the pressure did not fully disappear. Thoughts followed people into sleep. Worries about honor, family reputation, and tomorrow's expectations lingered quietly. Sleep was often light, especially for those trying to maintain status or avoid shame. Dreams mixed with anxiety about standing in the community. Even rest carried responsibility. As you imagine living under this constant social weight, notice how tiring it feels without any loud drama. This is another reason why you wouldn't last a day in ancient Greece. Not because the people were cruel, but because the system demanded constant performance. There was little space to simply be yourself, to rest without judgment, or to live without being measured. As the night grows quiet again, allow this heavy world to fade gently. You do not need to hold on to its rules or expectations. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow rest to continue calmly, far away from ancient eyes and ancient judgments. In ancient Greece, the greatest challenge was not a single dramatic moment, but the slow pressure of daily life that never truly relaxed. From the moment the sun rose, The body was expected to work, endure heat, walk long distances, and accept discomfort without complaint. There were no easy mornings. Sleep often ended early because daylight was valuable, and resting too long meant falling behind. Even ordinary people carried the weight of responsibility constantly, whether it was tending land, managing a household, or fulfilling duties to the city. This constant effort drained energy quietly, making life feel heavy even when nothing seemed especially wrong. Food, which might seem simple, added another layer of strain. Meals were plain and repetitive, often made of grains, olives, and small portions of vegetables. Meat was rare for most people, and usually reserved for special occasions. Hunger was not extreme, but it was familiar. The body learned to function with just enough nourishment, never fully satisfied. Over time, this limited diet weakened strength and slowed recovery from illness. Feeling tired was normal. Feeling truly rested was rare. Water was another concern. Clean drinking water was not always easy to find, especially in crowded cities. People relied on wells, springs, and stored rainwater, all of which could be unreliable. Illness caused by poor water was common, and without modern medicine, even simple sickness could linger for weeks. The body had to endure discomfort patiently because there were few solutions available. Clothing offered little protection. Most garments were simple and worn for many years. They provided limited defense against heat, cold, or rough work. Shoes were basic, and walking long distances on stone roads or uneven ground took a toll on feet and joints. Pain was accepted as part of life. Complaining did not change anything, so most people learned to remain silent and continue moving. Social pressure added to physical strain. Ancient Greek society valued strength, discipline, and endurance. Showing weakness was discouraged, especially for men who were expected to serve the city and maintain honor. Even women whose lives were mostly confined to the home carried constant responsibility for managing households, raising children, and maintaining order. There was little space to rest emotionally. Expectations followed everyone, shaping behavior and limiting freedom. Illness and injury were constant threats. Without proper medical care, even small wounds could become serious. Treatments were based on tradition and belief rather than scientific understanding. Healing took time, and pain relief was limited. The body often healed slowly, if at all. Living with discomfort became normal, shaping how people experienced their own bodies. As years passed, this constant strain accumulated. Joints stiffened early. Energy faded sooner than expected. Aging arrived quietly and early, not as wisdom and comfort, but as limitation. Many people never reached old age. Those who did often lived with ongoing pain and reduced strength. Life was not designed for ease or longevity, but for endurance. As you imagine living within this slow pressure, notice how tiring it feels without being dramatic. There is no single moment where everything goes wrong. Instead, life gradually wears the body down. This is another reason why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Not because of one great hardship, but because of many small ones that never stopped. As the night grows quiet again, allow this image to soften and drift away. You do not need to carry it. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing stay slow and gentle. Allow rest to continue calmly, without effort. As the long day in ancient Greece slowly comes to an end, You might expect some relief, some comfort, or at least a sense of rest waiting for you. But evening does not bring ease in the way modern life does. As the sun lowers and shadows stretch across stone streets and dusty paths, daily work may slow, but the strain on the body and mind remains. There is no soft place to truly relax, no quiet corner that feels completely safe, and no certainty about what the night might bring. Even as darkness arrives, life does not gently switch off. It simply grows quieter and heavier. Imagine returning to a small home made of stone and clay, still warm from the heat of the day. The air inside feels thick and unmoving. There is little light, only the weak glow of oil lamps, their smell mixing with smoke and dust. Furniture is minimal. The ground is hard. If you sit on rough surfaces. If you lie down, it is on thin bedding laid directly on stone or packed earth. Your body, already tired from walking, working, carrying, and standing all day, does not fully relax. Muscles remain tight. Joints ache. The body knows tomorrow will be the same. Sleep in ancient Greece is light and broken. Noise from the street does not fully stop. Animals move nearby. People talk late into the evening, especially in warmer months when night is the only time to escape the heat. There is no glass in windows, no barrier between you and the outside world. Sounds pass freely. The mind stays partly alert, listening without meaning to. True rest feels distant. Hunger often follows you into the night. Meals are simple and not always filling. Bread, olives, thin wine, maybe a little cheese if you are lucky. The stomach is rarely satisfied. This dull hunger keeps the body restless. You turn from side to side, searching for a comfortable position that never quite appears. Sleep comes in short waves, never deep, never long enough to refresh. For many people, anxiety also follows the night. There is no certainty about safety. Fire is always a risk. Illness spreads easily. Injury can end a working life instantly. There is no system to catch you if something goes wrong. As you lie awake, the mind wanders not toward dreams but toward worries that cannot be solved. Tomorrow's labor, tomorrow's heat, tomorrow's demands. Even those who are wealthier do not escape discomfort. Larger homes still rely on servants, and servants move through the night, creating noise and activity. Privacy is rare. Silence is rare. Comfort, as we understand it, barely exists. Rest is something you get only in pieces, never fully. As you imagine this night settling around you, notice how the exhaustion does not lift. The body is tired, but rest does not restore it. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Not because of one dramatic hardship, but because every hour adds weight. Even the end of the day offers no true relief. Life moves forward without pause, carrying you with it whether you are ready or not. As the night grows quiet now, allow this ancient world to slowly fade away. You do not need to stay there. Let your body rest in the comfort of the present. Let your breathing slow. Let the story soften and drift into the background, where it belongs. As the long day in ancient Greece slowly came to an end, life did not soften in the way we expect rest to arrive today. Evening did not mean comfort, silence, or privacy. It simply meant the work outside had paused, while the strain of living continued indoors. Homes were small, often shared by many people, with little separation between daily life and rest. The air inside was thick with smoke from lamps and cooking fires, carrying the smell of oil, ash, and food that lingered deep into the night. There were no soft beds waiting, no quiet rooms prepared for sleep. Instead, people lay down wherever space allowed, often on hard surfaces, thin mats, or wooden frames that offered little support to tired bodies already worn down by heat, labor, and hunger. Sleep itself was uncertain and easily disturbed. The streets outside remained noisy long after darkness fell, filled with voices, animals, and movement that never fully stopped. Dogs barked, carts creaked, neighbors argued, and insects filled the air with constant sound. Inside the home, children shifted, elders coughed, and bodies pressed close together for warmth or lack of space. Privacy did not exist. Every movement was felt, every sound shared. Even when the body was exhausted, the mind stayed lightly alert, trained by years of uncertainty to listen for danger, fire, or sudden trouble. True deep rest was rare, and waking through the night was normal. For most people in ancient Greece, the body never fully recovered from one day before the next began. Hunger often followed them into sleep, as food was simple, limited, and not always enough. Muscles ached from long hours of work, whether in fields, workshops, or homes. The heat of the day lingered into the night, especially in summer, making rest uncomfortable and shallow. In winter, cold crept in through stone walls and open spaces, forcing bodies to curl tightly together for warmth. Sleep was not refreshing, it was survival in stillness. There was also no clear boundary between rest and worry. Thoughts followed people into the dark. Concerns about food, illness, family, debt, and social standing stayed alive in the mind. Religion and belief added another layer, as many feared the gods' displeasure or read meaning into dreams and signs. Even sleep could feel watched, judged, or uncertain. Night was not always a place of peace. It was a quiet continuation of the same fragile life lived during the day. As you imagine lying down in ancient Greece after a long, difficult day, notice how little relief arrives. The body rests, but it does not recover. The mind slows, but it does not empty. Tomorrow waits quietly, bringing the same heat, the same labor, and the same limits. This is why lasting even a single day in ancient Greece would feel overwhelming to a modern body and mind. Not because of one dramatic hardship, but because of the constant strain that never truly lifted, not even in sleep. As the night grows quieter now, allow this ancient evening to fade away. You do not need to stay there. Let your body remain still and supported. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow rest to arrive gently in a way that ancient life rarely allowed. As the long day in ancient Greece slowly comes to an end, you might imagine that night would finally bring relief. The sun lowers, shadows stretch across stone streets, and the noise of the day begins to soften. But even now, true comfort remains distant. Homes are simple and often crowded, built more for shelter than for rest. The floors are hard. The air is still warm in summer or sharply cold in winter, and privacy barely exists. You lie down, not because you feel ready to rest, but because there is nothing else left to do once darkness settles in. Sleep in ancient Greece is light and uncertain. Beds, as we know them, are rare. Many people rest on thin mats, wooden frames, or folded cloth laid directly on the floor. The body never fully relaxes against such surfaces. Muscles remain slightly tense, searching for comfort that does not arrive. Outside, the sounds of animals, distant voices, and night activity drift through open spaces. There are no sealed rooms, no steady silence. The mind stays alert, listening, even when the eyes close. The body, already tired from walking long distances, carrying water, working fields, or standing for hours, longs for deep rest. But hunger often interrupts sleep. Meals during the day are simple and limited, and the stomach rarely feels full. At night, emptiness returns, quietly reminding you that tomorrow will demand energy you may not have. This constant low hunger makes sleep restless, filled with waking moments and shifting positions. Fear also lingers in the dark. Without street lighting or strong security, night belongs to uncertainty. Fires burn low, casting uneven shadows. The darkness feels close and alive. Even in familiar places, the night changes how everything feels. A sound that would seem harmless during the day feels sharper and more important after sunset. The body remains slightly tense, prepared to wake quickly if needed. Dreams, when they come, are shaped by daily strain. They are not gentle or refreshing. They blend work, worry, and memory into restless images. Waking from them does not feel like waking from rest. It feels like returning to the same tired awareness. Morning never feels far away, and sleep never feels deep enough. As you lie there, waiting for rest that never fully arrives, you begin to understand something important. Ancient Greek life does not allow the body to recover easily. Each day builds on the fatigue of the one before it. There is no pause, no true reset. Life continues forward, carried by habit rather than comfort. As the night grows quieter around you, allow this image to slowly fade. You do not need to hold on to the discomfort. Let the ancient world rest where it belongs. Stay still now. Let your breathing slow. Let your body soften in ways theirs rarely could. Rest can come to you more easily than it ever did to them. Imagine that you have now spent some time living in ancient Greece. Not as a hero from stories, not as a philosopher remembered by history, but as an ordinary person trying to survive each day. At first, the world may have seemed interesting, even beautiful in its own way, but slowly the weight of daily life begins to settle into your body and mind. There is no comfort waiting for you at the end of the day, no reliable safety, and no real rest. Every task, even the smallest one, requires effort. Water must be carried. Food must be prepared from scratch. Clothing must be repaired again and again. The body never truly stops working, and because of this, exhaustion becomes a constant companion rather than something that comes and goes. Sleep, which should restore strength, rarely feels deep or refreshing. Nights are often uncomfortable. Homes are simple, with hard floors, thin bedding, and little protection from cold or heat. Sounds from outside travel easily through walls, keeping the mind slightly alert even during rest. Without modern lighting, nights are long and dark, and mornings come early with the rising sun. The body is forced into a rhythm that does not care about personal energy or mood. You wake because the day demands it, not because you feel ready. Food, though praised in history books for its simplicity, is limited and repetitive for most people. Meals are based on what is available, not what is desired. Hunger is not dramatic, but it is familiar. The stomach is often only partly satisfied. Nutrition is uneven and the body feels it slowly over time. Weakness, dizziness, and sickness appear quietly, without clear explanation. There are no doctors who can truly help. only basic remedies and hope that the body recovers on its own. Social pressure also adds to the burden. Ancient Greek society expects everyone to know their place and stay within it. Stepping outside of social roles brings judgment, punishment, or isolation. Freedom is spoken about in philosophy, but daily life is strict and limited, especially for women, workers, and slaves. Choices are few, and most paths are decided at birth. This lack of control slowly drains motivation and hope, making life feel narrow and repetitive. Religion, which surrounds daily life, offers meaning, but also fear. Gods are believed to watch closely, ready to reward or punish without warning. Bad luck, illness, or loss is often seen as a sign of divine anger. This belief creates anxiety rather than comfort. When something goes wrong, there is no clear explanation, only guilt or fear of having offended unseen forces. The mind carries this weight quietly, adding to daily stress. As days turn into months and months into years, the strain becomes clear. The body ages faster. The mind grows tired. Joy becomes smaller and rarer. Life does not collapse suddenly. Instead, it slowly wears you down. This is why surviving even a single day in ancient Greece would be harder than it first appears. Not because of constant danger or dramatic events, but because of the steady, unrelenting effort required just to exist. As the night grows quieter now, allow this image of ancient life to soften and fade. You do not need to carry its weight. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow naturally. Allow rest to take over gently, without effort, as the story drifts away into the distance. By this point in ancient Greek life, the body would already be carrying more weight than it was ever meant to hold. Long before comfort, safety, or rest could settle in, daily survival slowly wore people down. From sunrise to sunset, the body was expected to work, endure heat, walk long distances, carry loads, and function with very little nourishment. There was no concept of conserving energy for the future. Each day demanded everything, and the body gave what it could until there was nothing left to give. Fatigue was not temporary. It became a permanent state, accepted as normal because there was no alternative. Illness was a quiet companion that followed many people throughout their lives. Without modern medicine, even small problems became serious over time. A minor infection could linger for months. A simple injury could change the rest of a person's life. Pain was managed through endurance rather than treatment. People learned to live alongside discomfort, adjusting their movements and expectations slowly, without complaint. Rest was limited, and recovery was rare. The body adapted not by healing fully but by lowering its demands. Sleep, which should have restored strength, often failed to do so. Nights were uncomfortable, interrupted by noise, cold, insects, and worry. Many slept on hard surfaces, sharing space with others, animals, or tools. The mind did not fully relax, even during rest. Concerns about food, work, family, and survival followed people into sleep, making true recovery difficult. Waking up tired was normal. Feeling refreshed was rare. As the body weakened, daily life became harder, not easier. Tasks that once felt manageable now required effort and caution. The pace slowed, but expectations did not. Society did not pause for weakness. People were valued for what they could contribute. and when contribution decreased, so did support. This created quiet fear about aging and decline. There was little safety net. Family helped when they could, but everyone was struggling in the same way. Emotionally, this physical decline carried its own weight. When the body no longer responded easily, frustration and resignation settled in. Dreams and ambitions faded, replaced by a narrow focus on getting through each day. Life became smaller, shaped by limitations rather than possibilities. This was not dramatic or tragic in a loud way. It was slow, steady, and deeply tiring. As you imagine this stage of ancient Greek life, notice how heavy it feels without being intense. There is no single moment where everything falls apart. Instead, there is a gradual realization that the body cannot keep up with the demands placed on it. This is one of the deepest reasons why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. Not because of one danger or one hardship, but because life asked too much for too long, with very little return. As the night grows quiet now, allow this image to soften and fade. You do not need to carry it further. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing stay slow and gentle. Allow rest to continue calmly, without effort or expectation. As the long and exhausting day in ancient Greece slowly comes to an end, the idea of rest may seem comforting at first, but even night offers little relief. When the sun lowers and the streets grow quieter, life does not suddenly become easier. Instead, the body carries the weight of the entire day into the evening. Muscles ache from walking on hard stone paths. The skin feels dry and irritated from dust, heat, and rough clothing. Hunger lingers even after a simple meal, because food is plain and portions are small. There is no sense of comfort waiting at home, because home itself is often little more than a basic shelter with hard floors, thin bedding, and shared spaces. Sleep in ancient Greece is light and broken. The body lies down tired, but the mind does not fully relax. Sounds travel easily through stone and open courtyards. Voices, animals, and distant movement remain present. There is no true silence. Bedding is simple, often just a mat or thin blanket, offering little support. The body does not sink into rest. It stays aware, shifting often, never fully settling. Even during sleep, discomfort remains, reminding you that rest is only partial. Illness and injury are always close to the surface. Small cuts, sore joints, and exhaustion are accepted as part of daily life. There is little expectation of healing quickly. The body learns to continue despite pain. This constant strain makes each day harder than the last. Strength fades quietly. Energy never fully returns. Life does not pause to allow recovery. It simply continues, demanding effort again the next morning. Emotionally, the weight is just as heavy. There is little privacy and little personal freedom. Society expects obedience, endurance, and acceptance of one's role. Questioning life's difficulty brings no comfort. Philosophy exists, but for most people, survival comes before reflection. The body works, rests briefly, and then works again. Days blend together, marked not by joy or fulfillment, but by repetition and endurance. As you imagine living this way, notice how draining it feels without drama. There is no single terrible moment, no sudden failure. Instead, there is a steady pressure that never lifts. This is why you would not last a day in ancient Greece. not because of one hardship, but because every part of life demands effort without offering comfort in return. As the night deepens now, allow this ancient world to fade gently away. You are not meant to live there. You are only visiting through imagination. Let your body release the weight of that day. Let your breathing slow. Let the quiet of the present moment feel softer and safer. You have returned to now. You have survived the day, and you can finally rest. As this long journey through ancient Greece slowly comes to an end, it becomes clear that life in that world was never designed to be gentle or easy. From the moment the sun rose to the moment darkness settled over stone streets and simple homes, survival demanded constant effort. The beauty we imagine today was built on routine hardship, physical strain, and strict social rules. People lived close to nature, but nature was not always kind. Heat, cold, hunger, illness, and exhaustion were part of daily life. Comfort as we understand it now did not exist. What existed instead was endurance. Ancient Greek life moved at a slower pace, yet it was heavier in many ways. Water had to be carried. Food had to be prepared from scratch. Bodies worked until they were tired, and rest was short and uncertain. Sleep came on hard surfaces, often shared, often interrupted. The body learned to accept discomfort as normal. The mind learned to stay strong even when the body felt weak. There was beauty in this simplicity, but there was also constant strain that modern life has softened. Social expectations shaped every moment. Your role in life was decided early and rarely changed. Men, women, children, and elders each carried different burdens, and freedom was limited by birth, status, and location. Questioning this order was rare. People adapted instead. They learned to survive within the rules given to them. This adaptation was not easy, but it was necessary. As you imagine yourself standing in that ancient world one last time, notice how quiet it feels at the end of the day. Fires burn low. Voices soften. The city rests after long hours of effort. Life continues, steady and unchanging, night after night. People sleep not because life is peaceful, but because they must gather strength to begin again at sunrise. This is why if you were suddenly placed there today, you would struggle, not because ancient people were weaker, but because they were stronger in ways we no longer need to be. Their lives demanded resilience, patience, and acceptance of discomfort that modern life has slowly removed. As this story gently fades now, allow the ancient world to rest where it belongs in the past. You do not need to carry its weight with you. Let your body remain still. Let your breathing slow. Let the quiet of the present moment replace the noise of history. Thank you for resting here, for listening, and for allowing this calm journey through time. May your night be gentle, your sleep deep, and your rest uninterrupted. Good night, and sleep well.